One.
Well, good evening, people. I'm happy and excited to be here. We are going FB Live and we are going YouTube Live today evening. This is the 32nd episode of Mandarpan, and I am Dr. Fabian Almeida, psychiatrist, counselor, and motivator, here to give a little more dumplings of mental health awareness. But today is special. Let me just run you through the journey of Wellsprings in a few moments. Wellsprings Counseling Clinic has always been spearheading the spread of mental health awareness and abolishing stigma through our many different programs, sessions, etc. We have Mindscape, which is India's first inter-school mental health festival for children. We had Inspirations, which is India's first tabletop calendar on mental health awareness, with 6 stories and related mental health, some things which are simple yet significant to know. We have kiddie camps in summer and Diwali, and this time we went online to have it. Seminars and workshops for teachers, for parents, for students, all of it towards mental health awareness. And it's always a pleasure to do something that's passionate to your heart. Well, Mandarpan was something we initiated during the lockdown, and this is our 32nd episode. Every Saturday, we connect with you, and it's so nice to see all people back and back again, joining us for the sessions of positivity. Rense, Amrita, Rebecca, Rani teacher, Sister Jacinta, all of you all, thank you for connecting with us every Saturday for these sessions of Mandarpan. I'm happy to say that the Indian Psychiatric Society, the IPS Task Force, we have Dr. Roop Sidana as the chairperson and Dr. Mohan Roy as the co-chairperson, and yours truly, me, Dr. Fabian Almeida, as the convener. This is the task force for COVID-19 pandemic mental health care. Lots of webinars. I also had the opportunity to do favor OPDs for the Kalyan Doctors Army. And through this, we've been touching base for mental health awareness. But today is special. Today is our annual session that we have particularly for principals, but we open it out also to supervisors, coordinators, teachers, PTA members, and everybody who wants to know a little more of school mental health. This is our 6th annual session of Impact, and we are glad to have your support all through. And what makes this very interesting and exciting is we have this session for a topic that's very dear to my heart, and that is life skills. And while this is my favorite topic, I have 2 of my favorite people sharing stage with us today to enrich us and enlighten us this evening. Well, let me introduce you to our 2 stalwarts this evening. I am honored to have Dr. Shekhar Seshadri, Senior Professor, Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry, Associate Dean for Behavioral Sciences Division of NIMHANS, Bangalore. And we all know that NIMHANS is the mecca of mental health the world over. He enjoys his thespian pursuits. Theatre is very close to his heart, and it's remarkable how he mixes theatre and mental health together. A musician, he plays the guitar, sings, and I think he combines music and mental health very closely as well. And a music aficionado. Well, I've been practicing that word, but what it means is that music is very dear to his heart, and he appreciates music in every sense of the word. We are so thrilled to have you, sir, with us. Down-to-earth human being, multifaceted, and here for us this evening. Thank you, sir, for being with us, for sharing your expert views on life skills, COVID and beyond. Thank you, sir. And the second speaker today is Mr. Floyd Almeida. Well, if you haven't guessed it, no rocket science. He is my elder brother and someone who I've always looked up to as a role model and someone who has always been there for me. Well, he comes from the background of the human resources development and has been a director for many decades now, sharing his expertise in the field, corporate consultant, performance coach, doing what he does best. He's also a Harvard scholar, and London Business School is where he has harnessed his experience from. Musician, he also loves music and plays the guitar. Voracious reader, he has a library and a house. It's not a library in his house. A nature enthusiast and a very humble human being. Floyd, welcome to the platform, and we are happy to have both of y'all with us this evening. So the stage is set for our program on life skills. As we go ahead with life skills, we will have Floyd bring to the table the connect between the corporate world and the students in their journey through school, college, and specialization. And then Sir will take over on the main aspects of life skills. So we will begin with Floyd. We'll have the show of slides coming in.
So we're waiting
And
for Mr. Floyd. He's just joining in.
righto. So
Excellent.
that's where we have Floyd Almeida. Welcome to the platform, Floyd. It's great to
Thank
have
you.
our stalwarts this evening. And Anirudh, you must have a snapshot of this. It's our Kodak moment for the evening. So smile as we go ahead for our program on life skills. Yes, we start the slides and Floyd will go ahead to begin with.
Good evening, everybody. And I must say, I'm really delighted to be on this platform for this session with Dr. Fabian and Dr. Seshadri, both stalwarts in their fields. And I think this is a very important topic, especially in these challenging times. What I would be doing is largely sharing my experiences as a HR director, as a business consultant, and as a performance coach as to what I have seen on how people perform and where they have performance barriers. If we go to the next slide, having had experience at Harvard and London Business School as well, there's a lot we have learned about the human mind, the human emotions, and human actions, and how these three integrate together to give performance and results back at work. As you will see in the next slide, this becomes very important, especially today. How many of you have really imagined that 2020 would turn out the way it has been? A virus, the world closed down, people losing jobs, schools down. It's crazy. Now students really want to go back to school. And when you look at this, we live right now in a VUCA world. It's volatile. That means changes happen unexpectedly and happen faster. It's uncertain. When the changes happen, we don't know the direction they are going to go or what's going to happen. Besides that, they are complex. There are so many things linked together. The cause, the effects are all interlinked and intertwined to the extent that a solution can probably create a new problem. And finally, it's ambiguous. Things are not clear as to how things are going to happen. And this results in the human individual needing to have the courage to make mistakes, to learn, to grow, and then to move forward. The new mantra in management is failing fast, failing forward. So, in this VUCA world, if we see in the next slide, what is it that it takes for a person to be successful? Performance is an iceberg, very simply because we all know that 1/10 of the iceberg is above the water. The 1/10 which we see of an individual at work is the knowledge he has, the qualifications, for example, the skills he displays, and the behavior with his fellow teammates or with the people who report to him or his manager or with the customer. And how he uses this knowledge, skills, and behavior is very dependent on all that lies below the iceberg: the mindset, the emotions, the values, his own self esteem, his own experiences. This is the engine that drives the transformation of knowledge, skills, and behaviors of an individual into results back at work and relationships. And by relationships, I mean working with a team, or in some cases, even leading the team. You could be a supervisor, you could be an individual, or you could be the CEO of the company. At the end of the day, you are measured by your results and the relationships you have to be able to influence people and make decisions and implement them. Now, very often it is said that you get hired because of your knowledge and skills. You say, I have done this and I'm an engineer and I have a qualification in this particular field. So you get hired for that. But often you get fired or promoted based on how you use your knowledge, skills, and behaviors into delivering results and relationships. So, this is largely the performance iceberg of how a person integrates his knowledge, skills, and behaviors and transforms them into results and relationships driven by the engine that you see right beneath the waters. In the next slide, we would see what exactly happens at work. Now, in some cases, we notice that people are unable, for whatever reasons, driven by the engine below in the water of the iceberg, the lower half of the iceberg, where they are unable to they are unable to transform their skills and behaviors into results and relationships. And as a result, they are ineffective at work, they are complacent, in some cases, failures. We have problem behavior, we have breakdowns and burnouts. So, what happens is that you have a person who's highly qualified, but unfortunately, for some reason, he doesn't deliver. He's not able to lead the team. His team doesn't respect him. A lot of things happen, which, though it looks good at the beginning, the day you recruit the person, but when the person joins and starts moving forward, it doesn't really work out the way the person who hired him thought it would work out. And this is what I bring to the table today. My experiences in seeing what is it that we hired a person and in some cases had to fire him. It looked great on recruitment day, but it didn't work out in the years that followed. So, what is it that leads to this importance in transformation? If we look at the next slide, we've all heard the term hard skills and soft skills, where hard skills is usually your knowledge and your qualifications that come along, and your soft skills is largely the engine that transforms these hard skills, your subject matter expertise, into results back at work. And it's important to have relations back at work very simply because you need to work through people. You can't do it all yourself. Even the CEO of a company cannot do everything by himself. He needs to depend on his team, who in turn depend on their teams. So, in essence, organization success is a team sport. You can have stars, but more importantly, what you need is a star team. And then when you look at personal growth, what is personal growth? Personal growth is growth in hard skills. I'm using common phraseology, and soft skills. You have specialization in subjects, you have learning, but more importantly, how will you apply that? For that, you need vision, you need creativity. You never get textbook problems back at work. You need to adapt, you need to see what the situation is, and then use your learning to craft a solution and then implement it. And that makes the difference. So, very often, the hard skills which we talk about, the subject matter expertise that we talk about, is often said to be in the left part of the brain, the more logical part of the brain. Whereas the soft skills, that's the application, the creativity that's needed, the innovation, the collaboration, and the implementation. And idea is only as good as the results it gets when it is implemented. Otherwise, it's a sterile idea, it's of no use. So, innovation, collaboration, and execution are three very important things to make results, and then from there, relationships. So, what we realize is that what we call soft skills is really the hard part to learn. And soft skills are not only needed for success at work, it's also needed for success back in our own personal lives. And the most appropriate phrase for soft skills is actually life skills, because you need it in various aspects of your life, whether it's work, whether it's back home, whether it's within your community. And as we will see in the next slide, when we take a real closer look at what's happening, all of us want personal and professional fulfillment, work, life. We want to have abundance, we want to have balance. So when all of us work towards this, if you look at it within a school context, teachers want it for their students want it for themselves, parents want it for their children. So if all of us are working towards the same goals, where is it that this is not working out? Is it in the preparation? Is it in the school curriculum? Or is it that we have a great school curriculum, we have great teachers, but the students themselves are not personally committed and do not take ownership for their own development? And so they don't take interest in developing these core skills. Or is it that the students also learn and they from the excellent curriculum they have, but they don't execute well, either because of the environment in which they are in or because of other factors that they don't have the skills for execution? So let's look at this what, why, and how. How can life skills bridge this gap between a student evolving into a successful professional and into a contributing human being to society? So, when we move to the next slide, this is based on my years of experience as a HR director, on what I've learned and what I've seen. It all starts at the core with the self concept. Who do I think I am and what am I capable of? We'll go into a little more detail in the next slide, but this is the core concept of everything. Because based on my self-concept, I decide how far I'm going to go. What is the arc of my ambition? What are the values I hold close based on the vision I have for myself? And then using a head, which is the mindset, whether it's a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, I'll speak about that later. A bit of the heart, which is your emotional intelligence and resilience, and combining all this, your vision, your values, who you think you are, your emotional intelligence and mindset, how do you organize yourself, your plans, and your actions to achieve success? And that's the model here: head, heart, and hands, but evolving out of your self concept and the vision you have for yourself. Moving to the next slide, self concept is basically who do I believe I am? Because according to that, I will be able to handle an opportunity or an adversity based on what I think I can do. For example, at work, we promote people based on how they have performed in their current job. But there are times when the person either doesn't want a promotion, and I have seen that, because they feel the new role is too challenging, too stressful, they won't be successful. And so they don't take the opportunity because they believe they won't be successful. Or somebody believes I can handle it, and they will go forward and make a great name for themselves. Similarly, adversity. We have seen people, when we talk about adversity, when you have a challenging time, somebody loses their job, they feel it's the end of it all, circumstances are greater than them. And then rather than trying something new and different, they still cling on to the old comfort and they don't move forward. So your mindset makes a big difference. Moving to the next slide, when we talk about vision and values, what is it that you want for yourself? If I ask a question to the audience, how many of the teachers or principals there, how many of you believe that you would be a principal someday? Or how many of you really want to be a principal? Do you believe that you have it in yourself to be a principal of a school? Or those among you who are employed professionals, how many of you believe that you can make a CEO? Makes a difference. Who do you think you are? Do you think you're capable of that? According to that, you set your ambition, your vision for yourself. And then values. Values are very key, because sometimes in strong circumstances, we change our values. For example, say your value is integrity, which is speaking the truth and saying things as they are. Today, everybody is losing jobs, and your boss comes out with an idea that will definitely not work. What would you do? Would you tell him, sir, I don't agree with what you said because of these issues, and I don't think it will work? Or do you say, well, for me, it's more important to hold on to my job. So what I'm going to do is I won't say anything to the boss. I'll just do it. And when it fails, I'll say, you told me to do it. So it makes a big difference. Who do you think you are? What do you think you are capable of? And finally, if you move to the next slide, we realize that these aspects of head, heart, and hands, when I said earlier, head was a growth mindset where people talk about learning new things, moving forward. They don't believe they are constrained by their past. Emotional resilience, when things happen to you, you are able to move forward from there. And the hands of being able to plan and organize and move forward. All these are life skills. And without these life skills, we will neither be successful at work or at play or at home. And having said that, I now hand you over to the very eminent and able Dr. Seshadri, who will tell you more about life skills. Over to you, Dr. Seshadri.
Thank you very much, Floyd. Thank you very much, Fabian. Let me start off with posing a question to you, a very intriguing question that you will see on slide share. Don't be helpful. Many years ago, there was a motorcycle riding person who dropped a package in a market in South Delhi. A boy, wanting to be helpful, picked it up, wanting to hand it over. It exploded. He died. And I'm thinking, what will parents tell their children? Don't be helpful. And here is the girl coming home. Mother is watching from the balcony. There's an old lady. She drops her market stuff. The girl helps her. She comes back home. The mother says, what did I tell you? Don't help anyone. But the child says, Mom, she was an old lady. I don't care. Don't be helpful. Please keep this in mind in terms of what life skills means going forward in COVID, because the only thing that will answer intolerance of uncertainty that we are facing now is social cohesion. And that's how New Zealand has handled it. Social cohesion and how we go forward. Next. Many years ago, a 35-year-old techie comes to school and asks his teacher, who's on the word of retirement, "Teacher, do you remember me?" So, she takes off her glasses. No, no, child, I don't. He says, "But, I've never forgotten you. I don't know whether you remember. Terrible family situation, and truth be told, I'm not reconciled with my family. I don't know what it is that you saw on my face one evening, a day in school. When the class was over, you quietly called me aside, and I still remember you did not do me the indignity of calling out in presence of other children. And you said, 'Child, you look a little out of sorts. Is anything the matter?' And I told you what the issue was. It's not that you did anything great. You said it must have been so difficult to keep all that in your heart. If there's anything I can conceivably do, please don't hesitate to tell me. And teacher, I have never ever forgotten that act of kindness." Schools and principals. Because children are not an amorphous mass of humanity. Each child comes from a universe. When they enter the school gate, they do not become equal in terms of their attention. And one child has seen a fight break out at home that morning and has come. Another child is hungry. In another child, a family member is ill. How do we know which universe they are coming from? That and this sensitivity, which recognizes the personhood, the individuality, the identity, and the unique universe that a child comes from. Is this a child in lockdown in COVID who comes from a family where the father has lost a job? Is this a child in a lockdown situation in COVID where there's the theme of alcohol and domestic violence? And so, what is the context that the child is coming from? Short sentence: context matters. Therefore, dear friends, teachers, principals, counselors, service providers, there are four modes of healing: relational, discursive, school mental health, and life skills education. Now, what does this mean in terms of the modes of healing? As we go ahead and we look at the next, healing not just from problems, but from the larger constellations of life. ये कोविड कब खत्म होगा? वैक्सीन कब आएगा? Will schools open? Will we make up portions? Will there be a gap year? The children are contending with many uncertainties. And if they have to heal from the intolerance of this uncertainty, which is what structures anxiety, this is what you have to do next. Relational mode means, what kind of a role model are you providing them? Do you provide a context to have an emotionally corrective relationship? And do you provide a context which is disclosive of their stories, their narratives, the reality of their lives? And how do you do this? Going ahead, you do this by using the discourse mode, where the classroom, the home, becomes an animated atmosphere of discourse where you construct knowledge jointly: knowledge about conflict, knowledge about COVID, knowledge about life. Because knowledge does not occur from outer space, it occurs in the context of a culture of conversations. And unfortunately, the relationship of adults with children is constructed on the basis of instruction, expectation, and control and obedience, not on a culture of conversation. Four important things to consider while teaching life skills in any methodology is intent, content, method, and processing. In that session, in that interaction, in that conversation, what is your intent? What change do you want to bring in? What content do you want to bring in that conversation? And what method do you choose? Do you watch a movie clip together? Do you uh, do a little role play? And just to give you an example of how these methods work, two ways of how this method works, and pay attention to these three process questions: what is happening here? What are the feelings? How else could this situation be resolved? So here's what happens. Here's a shopkeeper. Here is a customer. The customer goes to the shopkeeper and says, "Bhai, mobile phone hai." And the shopkeeper says, "वो पड़ेला ना वहाँ, देख लो. It's lying there. Go have a look at it." लेकिन इसका रेंज क्या है? आपको क्या मांगता? What do you want? भाई साहब थोड़ा दिखाइए ना. Show me some with features. सोच के आना चाहिए था ना क्या features चाहिए. Now, it's a role play. What is happening here? The shopkeeper seems to be disinterested. The customer seems to be getting confused. What are the feelings involved? The shopkeeper seems to be irate. Why is he irate? Did something happen at home? How else could the situation have been resolved? The customer could have walked out to say, there are many other shops here. I can go to some other shop. Or the customer could have been assertive. So this is how processing is done. Or to take another example, if a teacher comes to a class and says, kids, I want to speak to you about a very important concept today, courage. Mahatma Gandhi was courageous. Nelson Mandela was courageous. Courage is a very fantastic thing. And, all of you should be, courageous. That fair enough. Out of 10 children, one may actually be inspired. Two others may assimilate. Seven others will say, Pata nahi kya bol ke gaye yaar." Whereas if you say, kids, I have something very interesting to do today. I'm going to name you some slogans. You have to tell me what the product is. Just do it. Nike, connecting people. Nokia. Okay. For a slogan to have an impact, you know what a USP is? Unique selling proposition? Oh, yes. So, how should the slogan be? It should be catchy, it should be short, it should be imaginative, it should be impactful, it could use a brand person. So, I'm going to name you a product and I want to you to construct a slogan around it. The product is courage. And you get kids to construct a slogan. So, what have you done? You started with an anticipation, the slogan method, anticipation, imagination, and suddenly twisting around to say the product is courage. If you want to sell it, how will you do a good slogan? Then you do a listing exercise. In which context is courage required? And then you do a role play where somebody is being bullied uh, or somebody is being treated unfairly. Go back to the point that Floyd raised about values. Between loyalty and fairness, which is a superior value? It's a question we ask children. Here's the thing. I am a friend of this person. This person hits a younger child. Loyalty means I'll try to protect that child. Fairness means I'll tell him, look, you'll always be my friend, but what you did was wrong. That's the difference. And that's how we build life skills and work. Next. So, therefore, life skills and education has been going on for some time. The new mapping is the reality of COVID. So it's old territories and new mapping. Going forward, then, when we say we have met the end, Pogo Possum said this, we have met the enemy and there's us. What we're going to do emerging from this COVID situation, what we call as the new normal, and this COVID thing now, see, life skills started with the HIV/AIDS pandemic and unintentional injuries and risk behaviors and all of that. But now there is COVID. And what does this give rise to? So if you go ahead with what this gives rise to, I introduce you to social constructivism and the principles of Vygotsky. And what he says is life skills means you discuss with children a theory of knowledge, epistemology, a theory of value, exactly what Fabian said, and a theory of human nature. Who would he even have thought कि भारतीयों को कतार में खड़े होने की तमीज और समझ थी, that we could stand in queues because of the COVID situation. But we learned, didn't we? So how do we then embrace the challenges that life and COVID, this non-living strand of RNA, which has brought humanity down to its knees, and the havoc it's caused, if you put the weight of this RNA together, is not even 100 grams. So what does Vygotsky says? In life skills, speak to children about how knowledge is transmitted, how feelings are transmitted, how relationships are transmitted, a theory of society. When will vaccine come? How many doses? Why have they said that healthcare workers and frontline workers will get it first? What is the opportunity? And therefore, the central fact about the psychology behind life skills is consensus and mediation. In a family, if there is consensus, in a school, if there is consensus, in a society, there is consensus, and there is the willingness to engage in principles of mediation, never more eloquently demonstrated than in Reverend Desmond Tutu's Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Community psychology, healing in terms from the consternations of day-to-day life. Going forward towards the last part of what I wanted to share with you, the zone of proximal development and collaboration and exploration and challenging means that if you want to take a child in terms of the current reality and coming out of COVID that much near the truth, what I want to say to you from the experience we have in child mental health, and I'm sure that Fabian has similar experiences, that for us the only moment of truth is when a child client is sitting in front of us. Everything else is an approximation and an appropriation of that truth. So development can occur only if you take a child as near what the truth is. ऐसा हो सकता है, ऐसा सोच सकते हो, लेकिन अगर करके दिखाओ, that's where the intent, content, and method. So actual practice helps. And this is what is called as experiential methodologies. And the more you explore different alternatives to life problems and the challenges that life has, and you do it collaboratively with other people, you go to what I want to show you next, which is that the classroom becomes a collaborative community involving whole persons, and activities are situated and unique. What I mean by this is take contexts, conflict, peer pressure, anxiety, uncertainty about future, when schools are opening, and involve discussion and debate and challenges to create knowledge and how one actually responds to it. And how does this help? It helps by the fact that curriculum is a means and not an end. And what you plan in a situation, in a classroom, is that you may have a lesson plan, but outcomes are both aimed for and emergent. Allow for unexpected things to happen, because only then will you allow diversity and originality of thinking. That and this really begs the question, why do Fabian would love this, why do managers draw red flowers with green leaves? It so happened that a child was in a particular town in an art class, and the art teacher said draw, and the child started drawing a house, and the teacher said no, 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 draw a flower and leaves. So the child started drawing a black flower, and then the teacher said, no, 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 draw a red flower with green leaves. It so happened that the family got transferred to another town. Child was in a new school, art class. Teacher came and teacher said, draw. And the child was sitting there. And teacher said, why aren't you drawing? So the kid said, I don't know what to draw. So the teacher said, no, no, draw a flower with and leaves. 2 minutes later, the teacher came back and the kid is still sitting. Why aren't you drawing? He said, I don't know how to draw a flower. And simple, draw a red flower with green leaves. That's why managers draw red flowers with green leaves. Originality and diversity. Next, Ani. So, there is a difference between a transmission pedagogy and a regression pedagogy. Because what happens is when knowing is privileged, it becomes a problem, because as my conceptual guru, Mr. Frank Zappa, may his soul rest in peace, says, information is not knowledge, knowledge is not wisdom, wisdom is not truth, truth is not love. Of course, Zappa says love is music. And I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, love is your willingness to engage with children in the culture of conversations and in the culture of discourse and activity. To close, what I want to say then, there is no definite list of life skills. It's a whole set of psychosocial and interpersonal skills. And ultimately, what produces a powerful outcome is the approach that is supported. And you can use media and role play and art and watching films to really enliven the classroom situation. Next, Ani. So, life skills on the one hand, context of application and methods of learning. This is called triangulation, a very powerful concept in psychology. So, decision making as a life skill in the context of peer pressure, decision making in a context of attraction, decision making in a context of anxiety. In a given context, such as peer pressure, more than one life skill may operate: decision making, coping with emotions, and assertion. So that's the kind of relationship. And you use the kind of methods that you see in the next slide, which is theater and narratives and storytelling and artwork and poetry and zaiku and imagination and creativity. Some last thoughts for you, which is that all participants are learners, all participate and contribute equally to the production of knowledge, which is a continuous dialogue. Therefore, your pupils, dear teachers and principals, are the subject and not the object of the process. Finally, the objective of the process is to liberate these children from both internal and external oppression so as to make them capable of changing their reality, their lives, and the post COVID society that they will live in 6 months from now, 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. To conclude, remember what Fabian Floyd said: heart, hands, head, and health. And here is the diversity of what heart means. It's about nurturing, sharing, empathy, concern for others. It also means accepting differences, conflict resolution, social skills, cooperation, communication. What does the head mean? It means resilience, keeping records, how to use resources, planning and organizing, goal setting, critical thinking, problem solving, learning. What does health mean? It means personal safety, it means disease prevention, it means handling stress, managing feelings, taking responsibility. And what do hands mean? It means teamwork, it means marketable skills, contribution to the group, it means leadership, and it means community service and volunteering, which is social cohesion. Therefore, friends, the flutter of a butterfly and the developmental trajectories is what we are talking about. Like the teacher to whom that student said, I have never ever forgotten that act of kindness. One little thing that you will do for your child today in enabling these skills will make a great difference in who they will be 5 or 10 years from now. All good learners have self confidence in their learning ability and a pleasure in problem solving and a keen sense of relevance and a reliance on their own judgment over other people's or society. They do not fear being wrong, they are not hasty in answering, and they have a flexibility in a point of view. They have respect for facts and the ability to distinguish between fact and opinion and do not treat both as sacrosanct. They have no need for final answers to all questions and comfort in not knowing an answer to difficult questions rather than settling for a simplistic answer. Therefore, dear friends, all children are good learners. Be safe, be in good cheer. Over to you, Fabian.
Great, sir. All of this has been music to our ears. The beautiful simplicity of sharing, right from Floyd, bringing the smooth connect from the professional that we see across in probably the HR office to the training that we realize is coming from the school, the college, or the areas of specialization. And then how you qualitatively explained the essence of life skills with special reference to the COVID crisis. I think it's been a wonderful learning, sir. And we have a few questions. We have a lot of appreciation pouring in from the teachers, parents, and our regular watchers of the show. It's really nice. Let's take a few questions that have also come in. Uh, one of the persons, and this is from the corporate world. So, one of the persons here says that Anita, she's a team leader, and with now these 6, 7, 8 months, it has been increasing stress, even with the work from home scenario, blurring of boundaries between the personal and the professional. She's asked, are companies really doing enough? Are they recognizing the importance of emotional and mental health? Would you respond to that, Floyd?
Yeah. In fact, Anita, I'd like to say that's a very pertinent and a very timely question. In fact, the corporate world has changed a lot, since the days of my dad, for example, where the manager was considered to be a policeman. He'll give you a job to do, and he'll tell you, and he'll police you and tell you if you're doing wrong, and if you've done wrong, he'll send you a warning letter, and that was the relationship. I give you a job, you better get it done the way it's needed to be done and on time. But now people have changed in terms they realize that now we live in a knowledge economy. What really differentiates one company from another is its ability to innovate and implement those innovations successfully. Besides that, employees now carry their production capability between their ears. What I mean by that is between in their brains. And employees nowadays are volunteers rather than bonded labor. Having said that, what happens now is that managers, and I can speak specifically from my experiences here as well as in my own company, managers are being trained to be coaches. What I mean by that is that they now are becoming partners in performance. The paradigm has changed. I am no longer a policeman who believes that you come to work to do minimum and get your salary. I'm a coach who identifies your strengths, gives you the support, gives you the guidance, and helps you to become not only a better professional, but also a better person. So, for example, in my organization, we conducted coaching for all managers across. It was actually across a period of 1 year when we were at the senior level. So we trained managers on what is coaching. We helped them understand their psychometrics, what is their preferred management style. Then every month they themselves had a coach. One is to coach them how to become better coaches and for them to understand what is coaching all about. And I must say that having done that, we changed the culture of the organization from just being somebody who, you give them a job to do. If they do it well, you get a reward. If not, you get something else, which is not a reward. You understand that. So things have changed. And yes, companies have taken it on board to ensure that people enjoy coming to work and doing the work they do. And managers are now coaches, no longer policemen.
Great. I think so. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel. And what better timing for mental health? Never waste a crisis, as Dr. Harish Shetty says. Well, sir, here is a question that Renuka Gule is asking. Children are feeling suffocated due to e-learning, online class, and probably they just want to go out and play. How can we make them feel better, or what life skill education can we give them specifically at this point of time?
I have three quick responses, Fabian. One is understand that online learning was present even before COVID. There are all these platforms. Some of them are doing so well that they even support the Board of Cricket Control of India. I won't name them. You know who I'm talking about. So online learning was there, and gaming and all that, and screen time was there even before COVID. So this is not a new thing. And but specifically, there are two things I want to say. One is it's a question of the age of the child and time management of the day, and we need to basically develop a new routine for preschoolers. One can say, for example, that the total amount of screen time that is recommended should not be more than 1 to 2 hours a day, and that too not continuously, because the average attention span of a 3-year-old is only about 15 minutes. So you have to give a gap, and then as they grow older. So that's one recommendation, that you have a routine where you have family rituals other than the kind of e-learning they have to do. This rests on a basic principle. If you ask any 30, 40, 50-year-old person, what do you remember about your childhood? You will remember that which is a memory, and a memory is something that happened very often, a ritual, or it happened once but it was unforgettable. So you know what I remember about my childhood? I remember that I had an antique bell, 100 years old. It was my job to ring it during mealtime, and everyone would gather and laugh and talk. And now at the age of 40, it has pride of place in my house. You know what I remember about my childhood? Night after night, putting my ear outside my parents' door to listen whether they were killing each other or not. So what memories are you creating during COVID? For them 5 years, 10 years later, to say, yes, we had the lockdown, but we did fantastic things. Therefore, since they cannot go out, how do you so there is play and there is playfulness. So how do you bring playfulness into the family? And I want to introduce you to Rudolf Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy, Austrian philosopher, and the anthroposophic practice of education in the Waldorf systems. That so creativity, dance, movement, eurythmy, nature. That so if children cannot go out into the world, how do you bring the world back into the household? You know, have pots, get them to put throw a couple of mustard and coriander seeds, nurture them. It germinates in 3 days. And the joy of seeing something you've nurtured. Put 2 chairs, put a bed sheet on top of it, put a blue filter on the thing, play Hawaiian music, make a jug of orange juice. Think that you're on a Hawaiian beach. Imagination and that's how you deal with the suffocation. So the spatial constriction may be there, but the mind need not be constricted, as Tagore said. That so that's the kind of suggestion I have. Over to you, Fabian.
True, sir. The magic of childhood. I think that is what we have to give every child, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the crisis. This has been appreciated by our viewers and listeners. And thank you, Santosh, for appreciating us as well. One of the next questions for you, Floyd, is Mahesh says, I'm highly qualified. I've done every course I could and I've got my majors, but I've been stuck and no promotion for quite some time. What do you think I should be doing?
Well, very interesting situation. The first thing I would suggest Mahesh needs to do is sit with himself and try and understand how well do his teammates who he needs to collaborate with and his manager who he needs to influence think about his contribution. See, it's easy for us, and I include myself in that league, to believe that we are doing our best and we have qualifications. Like I said earlier, qualifications are important. You need to have knowledge. They are the table stakes today. If you want a job, the least you need to do is have the qualification. But application of that qualification and converting it into results and relationships, being able to work with people, makes a significant difference. Today, organization success is a team sport. Like I said earlier, there's no point in having Lionel Messi on the team, but nobody likes him and nobody passes to him and nobody takes his passes. Okay, so it's important to see what is it and how do I connect with the people, the relationship part of it. It's critical. So I would significantly suggest to Mahesh, in today's world, in a knowledge economy, ideas make the difference. And more importantly, like I said earlier, converting the ideas into impact. So the important thing is to check and to see, okay, how do I relate to my team? How do I relate to the people I lead? That becomes critical, because if you don't have those relationships, you will never be able to get the results. You might come out with a great idea, and somebody else might come out with another idea not as great as yours, but because that person has good relationships, he has the humility to take feedback and improve his idea or change his idea. People will say, okay, we'd rather work with Mr. X rather than Mahesh, because we can work better and make things happen. So Mahesh, and let me tell you this is a common problem. What I'm saying is a common problem. We have people who we promote and then they don't work out. One of the reasons is because of this. They have all the right knowledge and skills, but they can't take things forward because they can't lead with the teams they have. So what you have is not unique. It's not, I won't say it's personal. It's a common problem in the corporate world. What you need to get back and reflect on is, how strong are my relationships within my team and beyond my department? And that's the critical factor of converting your ideas into real business results. Like I said, it's the part of the iceberg that's below the water. All the best to you, Mahesh. The very fact that you asked
Great.
this question will make a difference, because awareness is the first step to improvement.
I'm sure that's very true. And like I think life skills learning, better never late and better late than never, right? So even if you haven't done it in the school and college, even at your company, that's never too late to start doing something for your life skill learning. Well, Dinesh Auti has been asking a lot of questions, and one of them is a simple few 5 tips for mental and physical coping with the COVID crisis for child and student. Simple 5 tips.
Uh, remember what I said about social cohesion, that stay connected, stay connected, stay connected with the extended family, with friends, so that conversations which go beyond the COVID agenda take place. Second, taking care of one's physical health and exercising is very important. Third, I see a lot of questions are being put about the fear of COVID and so on. Right now, before the vaccine comes, the SMS paradigm, sanitize, wear a
True.
mask, and keep the social distance, it gives you to the tune of 90% safety from the risk of contracting the disease. Third, creative writing, diary writing, very, very useful to be in touch with one's hobbies so that your identity is not restricted to the current anxieties and the kind of anxiety that Floyd addressed when Mahesh spoke about it. Finally, it's about the whole issue of the practice of various techniques of mindfulness. And I want to take on one word that Floyd used, and that word is the word application. If you look at the life skills paradigm and connecting it to the whole major theme of today's session, life skills, when it started many years ago, was very concept based, like truth and values. And then it became context based. So, family life education and socially useful, productive work. And then it became application based, which means to health sectors and to further transformation into socially useful. So from concept to context, and to context to application. That and what it means to really expand on the idea of application from what Floyd said is, how do we apply ourselves? How do we apply our potential? How do we apply our creativity? How do we apply our imagination? How do we apply our hands? That, is this a time that boys can start learning how to knit or to do crochet, because it's very good for fine motor skills? Who said that knitting is why look at knitting from a gender perspective? Why not take a piece of chalk and take a pen and carve it and dip it in ink, and you have this is the time to apply yourself. That So these are the 5 things, Fabian, that I would suggest.
Right. And so Jidnyasa Patil has asked a question for you. I probably think this will be the last one. How to keep irritable ASD children focused during e-school?
There's one thing that I want to say for any child, whether a neurotypical child or a child with special needs, that learning or conceptual or preceptive interaction is not good when a child is sleepy, hungry, tired, or irritable. So
True.
you have to choose moments when the child is not hungry, sleepy, irritable, tired, or uncomfortable for whatever reason. The second issue is, why is the child irritable? Is is there a contextual reason? And that's where we do an analysis of behaviors to figure out that, is it in response to an internal cue? Is it in response to some external discomfort, some sensory discomfort? And that's not the time to push the child into. So if you uh, allow yourself to observe the child for a couple of days and look at a pattern, you'll find which are the islands of good time where learning can take place, and which are the contexts in which the child is irritable. And at that time, use more soothing mechanisms, whether it's water, or whether it's massages, or whether it's gentle music, or whether it's holding the child, so that the irritability comes down. And then you get into the learning paradigm again. Over to you, Fabian.
True, true, sir. This evening has been a wonderful evening of simplicity, yet a lot of mastered wisdom. And I think we've all been enlightened and enriched about life skills. And simply put, the skills to have a better life. Parent, teacher, child, we all could make the most of the situation at hand and make this childhood yet magical. The imagination that can be used, the fine moments together, and whichever end of the spectrum or in the middle you are, life skills can be learned, shared, experienced, cherished, and made a part of memories. And that's what the session was all about. I think it was great having both of you all here, sir. Dr. Seshadri, wonderful having you here with your wisdom and your length of experience, the wealth of experience that you have. Floyd, how you correlated the corporate jungle and the life skills learning for students and their journey there forward. I think this is going to help a lot of us. We ask our people to keep continue with our sessions. Mandarpan happens every Saturday, and some of them, yes, we have on the YouTube Live and the FB page that is there. I ask Anirudh to flash our last two slides as we come through. Thank you, Kirti. Thank you, Dr. Cheryl, for your appreciation. Yes, so our Insta handle is Fab's Mindshop 227, where we try to send in positive messages every day to bring in more awareness of mental health and the strength of stability of a positive mind. You can connect with us at wellsprings2006@gmail.com. Be in touch with us via the email, and we can try and do whatever we can with mental health awareness and programs and seminars that we conduct. WhatsApp 908-209-3848. That's the number to connect on the WhatsApp. Thank you for your positivity. Thank you, Rense. Thank you, Rani teacher. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Sister Jacinta. Thank you, Neeta Sharma teacher, for all your positivity and what's coming in. We flash the next slide as we say a big thank you to all of you, the two stalwarts who've made this evening worthwhile for all of us, Dr. Seshadri and Floyd, and Anirudh, who's always the man behind the scenes who connects and coordinates. So thank you very much. Every Saturday, we will connect on Mandarpan. This is our 32nd episode of Mandarpan, which was collaborated with the Impact session for teachers, principals, coordinators, and supervisors. On 19th, we'll have Inspirations, the release of our 2021 calendar, mental health calendar, and we will invite you back for that session as well. We will continue to have sessions like this. And sir, we know there's much more to be learned from you, Dr. Seshadri and Floyd. We will have you come again with us and have programs with us in this way. Thank you once again, all of y'all. We would like Anirudh to come into the frame as well. And thank you for all those thank yous that are coming in. This is the Kodak moment once again. So let's have everybody smiling in. You need to take a screenshot like I am doing. Yes. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, everyone, for being in here. Till we meet again. Thank you. Have a great time.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, I think
Thank you,
that's Dr. Seshadri style. So let's have one more. Screenshot taken.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Till we
Right.
meet again. Thank you.
Thank you so
God
much.
bless. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.